Hi, I'm Dominic. I'm going to be presenting our transportation model. So what we did was we pulled the transportation stocks from the Russell 3000 index, and roughly we started off with about 70 stocks. Now, I'm breaking this model up into the metrics I'm using are fundamentals, risk, and valuation. The fundamentals metrics that I'm using are going to be asset turnover, the EBITDA margin, the WACC EVA spread, and the gross margin. And as far as risk, we have the total debt to EBITDA and the Bloomberg 5-year probability of default. And then for valuation, we have the price to book, EV to EBITDA, and price to earnings. So let me move on to our ranking model. So as you can see, we have our we have the ticker, the name, and then the sub-industry name, and then this column I created right here that says to either buy, sell, or hold the stock. Looking through it right now, I think we ended up eliminating stocks that had a lot of NAs and other stocks, other companies that were like Hertz Rent-A-Car that didn't really fit into what we're trying to capture. So these orange highlighted ones right here are going to be the companies that we currently own. And there's 4 of them right now. We have Norfolk Southern Corp, JB Hunt, Union Pacific, and Werner. So that's 2 trucking and 2 railroads. And then these companies right here, these we had recommended as a buy, the ones in the yellow font, but we're not going to be including those in the model because those are airlines, and we have another airlines sector. So as you go on, we have our we have our yearly ATO, and so this was in our profitability metrics, and we got the last 6 years worth of data for the asset turnover, and then I have it charted right here in these columns for each company. And then next we have the yearly EBITDA margin. We also pulled in the last 6 years, and I have it charted right here just so you can see kind of the trend of how it's been. And so in our fundamental metrics, I took the average of those 6 years for the asset turnover. I also took the average of those 6 years for the EBITDA margin. Then I have the WACC EVA spread, the 50-day moving average, the current trading price. We also took out their momentum and short interest. And when we move on to our risk metrics, we have the total debt to EBITDA. We also took the volatility of those 6 years of the asset turnover and the volatility of the 6 years of the EBITDA margin. And then last we have the Bloomberg 5-year probability of default. And so we got those for each of our companies. And that brings us to the valuation metrics. We have the current EV to 12-month sales. We also have the ranking or the value we got for the discounted cash flow model. And over here I just built a quick H model valuation. As you can see, we did this for all the companies that we have, and we were able to get our valuation right here for each one. And then from getting those 3 valuation, risk, and fundamental metrics, we then ranked them. So we have the ranking of the discounted cash flow model, average ATO, average EBITDA, and so on. As you can see, we have all of our ranks. And then next, we got the average rank for each company, followed by the market's rank for each company. And then we took our weights, which we have down here. We have this top line is where our weights are going to be. And for each one in the DCF, we didn't have any weight in that one because that's what Solver recommended. We had a 4% in the average ATO. We don't have any in the EBITDA margin. We have 1% in the volatility ATO, 8% in the volatility EBITDA, then 27% in the debt to EBITDA, 27% in the WACC EVA spread, and 8% in momentum, and then 6% in the short interest ratio. And lastly, we have the 19% in the Bloomberg probability of default. And that sums up to 100%. And with those weights, it was able to give us a correlation of 66%, so we were able to explain about 60% of the market right now, which is pretty good because the transportation industry did get hit pretty hard. I believe it was from around November to January, they started to go down just because, who knows, could have been the energy sector. There were various different things that could have brought all of the stocks down. And then so next we have our re-rankings with those weights. So we have each of the companies ranked with each of those weights that we have. And then we also, I just brought the valuations back over for the market. Now, the way I came up with the short, sell, or hold list was Professor Sweet helped me come up with the short list. And what we did was we used the difference between the two valuations. And what we did was we wanted it to be within the top 25 companies out of our whole sector. And then from there, we wanted a difference of -10, which would mean that our valuation ranked it like number 1, or like the lower number, and the market ranked it higher. So from using Sweet's short list, there were 6 companies that showed up on our short list. And then I had messed around with the if statements and created a sell list. And so what I did was I essentially did the exact opposite of the short list. Instead of the difference being -10, I used the difference of +10. So it gave us the worst rankings from the short list. And then all the companies that were not on the sell list or the short list came onto our hold list. And so as you can see, we have our chart. Let me give you a better chart. So we want the companies that are going to be up here. So we rank them higher, and the market values them lower. So we're wanting to get the stocks that we believe are going to outperform. So some of the stocks we own right now are currently J.B. Hunt, UNP, Werner, and NSC. And the stocks that ended up being on our short list were KEX, which is Kirby, and SAIA. And KEX is going to be a marine transportation company which helps just boats get around in the ports, and it tow them, or it tows a lot of like oils or nuclear parts, and it just helps them navigate through there. And then SAIA is another trucking company. And so let me bring in our short list. As you can see, we have our 3 airlines that we couldn't use. So we came down with Kirby. There's also Martin Transport and SAIA. Now last semester, SAIA was also on our short list, but we decided to purchase NSC. So let me come over to our current holdings. Now, right now, we have, at the beginning of last semester, we have J.B. Hunt and UNP. And last semester, we decided to sell half of J.B. Hunt to buy Werner, and then half of UNP to buy NSC. That way we were able to have 2 of trucking and 2 rail. And then now with our short list over here, we have Martin, which the price of this was the price at the beginning of the semester, and then this is the current price. Martin's percent change in price went up 14%. SAIA went up 48%, and KEX, which is Kirby, went up 39%. Now, from all this data we gathered, I believe that the best choice for us to make would be to sell NSC, because they haven't been performing as well as we had hoped. I believe that the reason NSC didn't perform like we wanted to was because when we bought them, there was talks of a merger, and that merger ended up not going through, which drove the price down on top of the whole industry being down. So I think that even though NSC is on our hold list, it would be best for us to sell it. And we would sell this and buy Kirby, because I believe that the best move would be to diversify, so we will have 2 trucking, 1 rail, and then a marine transportation. And that way it brings diversity to our portfolio. And from there, I think that would be the best move to make right now. Only time can tell if that's actually true. Are there any questions?
On the on some of your metrics, like their asset turnover, for example, what was the thought process on using an average on those in your ranking model rather than the latest data?
Well, we didn't want to just use the latest data because the sector has been down, and so I wouldn't want that to affect the latest data that has come out. So I believe that taking the average of the last 6 years will give a good representation of the company, not just currently, but how it has been in the past also.
And then so then you do the standard deviation of those various metrics. How is that a higher rank is better or a lower rank is better? I mean, so then when you're solving for it, I know that had some decent weight in it. So is the solver wanting it to have less standard deviation or more?
Well, for the volatility,
Yeah.
we want it to have less volatility.
Okay.
We want it to be stable. We don't want it to be too volatile because that could be, it could be good, but it also could be bad.
Right. And then did I see on there was price to book on there, or it was small, but I can't tell.
Let me zoom in, but yes, we used price to book to compare it to.
Is that just kind of an informational cell, or is that part of the weighting?
We had weighted it we're comparing it to the price to book of the market. So we were using those rankings and then comparing it to the market, which was the price to book. And then so we compared those rankings to the ranking of how it is in the market currently.
So is that your primary, I guess in all these models, there's what you're trying to predict. Is it price to book, or a lot of people have been doing like EV to sales?
Yes, for our model, it's price to book.
Okay, that's all I need. That makes sense. This is the first time I've seen price to book.
Are there any other questions? All right, well, thank you for the time.
Good job.